Hey everyone, just a quick content warning, as this episode does talk about sex in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We do talk about some things that people might not be comfortable listening to, specifically body and certain body parts, so if you're uncomfortable with that, you can probably skip the section where we talk about Scarlet Witch and Vision, and if you still don't feel sure, I would probably just skip the episode altogether. But yeah, otherwise, please enjoy. Subplots in non-romantic movies are generally weak points in plots and stories. They're generally the one thing that people criticize, among some other things. But the MCU movies in particular have been doing a decent job at avoiding a lot of tropes and pitfalls, specifically with those romantic subplots. But there is a sort of cost to it where I think the movies have been lacking energy that other media with romance and sex have. So I'm going to ask the all-important question. Why can't MCU characters just bone? Welcome to AP Marvel. I'm Chris Compendio. Joined with me, returning is Izzy Sio. Hello, Izzy.
Hi, Chris.
How's school going?
It's going.
Yeah.
As context, I was late to 5 out of 5 my morning classes last week.
Yeah, well, that's going well. Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back. I realized that it was exactly a month ago we recorded the Meta episode, so you're right. You'll be gone for a month, and here you are back with us. Anthony Paone has been holding the fort in our absence.
I am holding the fort. I am living my life. I am an adult.
You got towed today.
My car got. I purposely towed my car. My battery died.
Yeah. As opposed to accidentally towed your car. That would be pretty awkward.
No, that would suck.
We got a guest today. That's Dave Harris. What is up, Dave Harris?
What's up? Hey, y'all.
Hey, tell us a little bit about what you do in life.
Yeah, I'm Dave, playwright and poet, currently living in San Diego, getting my MFA in playwriting. Known Chris since middle school, back when we got cut from third team soccer.
God damn it.
Yo, back when we played 3 sports a year, throwing it back. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, and you play PlayStation 4 with us on the regular with me and Anthony.
Yeah, get some Overwatch.
Yes. Yeah.
Getting some
Overwatch, Fortnite.
Collecting some mats.
Now I'm going to be playing Spooderman.
I've never heard of that.
Never heard of the Spooderman.
Okay, but I did hear the romance in Spider-Man is actually good. The Mary Jane subplot.
Yeah, I hear it's honest to God. Yeah. I hear it's really, really good,
yeah.
And that MJ is really well done as a character in the game, which is awesome.
As context,
because we don't have very good game female characters in games romantically. So
yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, yeah, that kind of sucks.
As context, so I guess Chris and Dave at least were playing. I think you told me, Chris, and then Dave said it's so we first accidentally scheduled this over a meeting I had, and I wasn't going to be on, and then Dave said we shouldn't be talking about love and sex. And there's 3 dudes on there. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
A clear way of saying that. I was I put my foot down.
Who would want to listen to that?
I am back.
3 dudes talking about this kind of stuff. No.
That'd be basic as fuck.
Yeah.
3 dudes and a baby.
We shouldn't do a podcast on love and sex with 3 dudes.
Fall.
I'm that's a big mood.
Yeah.
No.
Well, now that we're all here, we can talk about some pairings, some canon pairings in the MCU movies. Then I want to talk a little about the TV shows, which I don't think we're all as well versed. We're not all at the same level in terms of watching all that, but we'll try to get to that. So, I guess the first romance you'd have to talk about when it comes to the MCU is Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. I myself have always felt kind of mixed about the arc of that. So they don't actually get together in Iron Man 1, correct? They're just kind of flirtatious, and then they kind of go through a journey in Iron Man 2 where Pepper's the CEO and things are going crazy, and then they just kind of make out on top of a building. Does that sound accurate, guys?
Yeah.
She kisses his helmet, and then he.
No, but
flies out.
that part was deleted. That part was not in the actual movie. I'm talking
No,
about the
it's-
end of Iron Man 2.
It was not in the movie.
Oh.
They just get together at the end of Iron Man 2 and like, wait, what the hell just happened? Why the hell? Okay. And yeah, Avengers 1, they're just together. Iron Man 3 was like when Pepper is not doing a good job supporting Tony with his PTSD. Then they break off screen, and they break up off screen, and then
They get back together off screen.
yeah, in Spider-Man, and it's like, okay, sure, I don't know what's happening. So talk to me about Pepper and Tony, about your opinions. Was this a well-written romance, even though it was kind of like tossed around by multiple screenwriters and directors?
Like flirty banter. Tony Stark, you're in danger. Flirty banter.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
kind of seems like the sum of a lot of the relationships.
I'm in danger.
Yeah. I feel like they... Because, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, flirtatious, oh, they're together, flirtatious, and it's, like, up and down. But I feel like they were trying to make it as, like, sort of central and, like, important, such, like, monumental as, like, Steve and Peggy are. But it just, like, failed just because of, well, one, how Tony Stark is.
Yeah.
And two, the fact that, like, Pepper wasn't a great character. Like, she wasn't like a great character like a lot of people I think latched onto at first.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know, like seeing them back together like after they broke up in Civil War, it's like, oh, okay, like this happened, sure, that's fine, whatnot.
They were able to get Gwyneth Paltrow, so her schedule was available. The thing is, I feel like the thing that defines the relationship, especially in the later movies, is actually no, not even the later, since Iron Man 2, is this whole burden that Tony Stark has being Iron Man, and Pepper being like, okay, can we just have some normalcy in here? Like, cause like Iron Man 2 is about the chaos of his life as Iron Man. Iron Man 3 is about his PTSD. Avengers, he frickin' throws a nuke in space. And then, yeah, Infinity War is like, oh, can we just have dinner tonight, you know? Can we just have a normal night? No, wait, Tony, what are you doing on that spaceship? Come back here right now. Kind of like setting up, like, you know, possibly tragedy, or maybe they're going to going off in the sunset in the next Avengers, but that seems to be the one thing to define this entire relationship arc. And does that work for you guys at all when you kind of put it in that way?
I don't know.
It's very Tony Stark, dependent on like the male, I think.
Which sucks.
And yeah, it's sort of like, well, we know it's bad, but we made it since like 2008, so we can't do anything about it now.
Yeah,
like,
different time. Yeah.
It's like, oh, it was like 2008, like sort of thing. And
we done gone goofed.
yeah. Well, this ain't progressive, but it's too late now. And I guess they're like, you know, like, theoretically, Tony Stark will, like, retire, or, like, Robert Downey Jr. will not be in a lot of movies anymore. So I guess they're like, well, we can just, like, close this off and then transition into other relationships throughout the rest of the MCU in, like, Phase 3, which we'll get onto later, probably.
I think... I forget what I was about to say, but, they tried to make Iron Man 3 into, like, a more significant movie for Pepper. I mean, she has a scene where she's in a sports bra and, like, kicks a rocket into Guy Pearce or something like that. And I don't know. I know our colleague Thomas Rasmussen had a lot of problems with how Pepper behaved in that movie. Like, Tony Stark, like, needed help, and Pepper's like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay away from you until you figure this out on your own. Which... I don't know, like the lack of support in that what we are meant to believe is like an intimate relationship. I guess I can understand why that bothered Thomas, but I mean, kind of looking at like that as the midpoint of like this entire relationship was, which has kind of been defined by this one thing of like Tony Stark's like hubris and like his need to like be Iron Man. Um, doesn't really make me care that much because I feel like it's not a I don't know. It's a foundation. It's like a theme that I'm kind of tired about. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yeah, like the constant shifting of like it's first it's like a burden and then it feels like unhealthy just based on what you see, but you're only seeing a small glimpse of like their actual relationship.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I never really bought into it, to be honest. I think that like the way Iron Man 2 was just kind of like, boom, they're a couple now. Like that always made me not really believe it in the subsequent movies. So I don't know. I'm not a fan, I guess.
Well, there's also kind of like, why are they dating? Why are they together? If like the entirety of your role is like to support your superhero's narcissism.
Yeah.
Like what need do we get them beyond that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I kind of feel like it was just kind of it's there for the comic book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's like including MJ in a Spider-Man movie,
Sure.
but not really developing MJ at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting her there.
Doesn't Pepper have a thing with Happy in the comics?
Yeah.
I don't know.
In Civil
really?
I think like in Civil War, like the comic Civil War, like Pepper and Happy were like actually like married, I think. And then there's that whole ordeal. I think there's a whole ordeal between like Tony and like Pepper with like trying to settle that out like in the midst of like
Sure.
the Civil War. I don't remember exactly because I read this years ago, but they were married. Happy and Pepper.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Robert Downey Jr. is the leading man. Like you got to give his character the romance, and Jon Favreau can't just give himself just can't make Gwyneth Paltrow his movie wife like he did with Chef, with frickin' Sofia Vergara and Scarlett Johansson. Don't you just love it when writer director / main actors just make their romantic interest like a hot Hollywood lady? Okay, anyone want to move on to Thor and Jane Foster?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Someone talk about this one. I'm just I'm not a fan of this one.
I mean, like, it's a phase 1 relationship. They got all pushed under the rug or done something weird happened with it where there was time jumps and they were just unnecessary. Like they forced the relationships in so that comic book fans wouldn't freak out. In my opinion. Not specifically with the Thor and Jane one.
Is anyone in the camp that
it didn't feel real?
Right. I feel like people were not sad to see Natalie Portman go from the Thor movies. Are we in the same camp? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Dave, what did you think about Natalie Portman?
Is Jane even like particularly significant in the comic version?
Well,
that might be my own.
Well, she's Thor.
Well, so
that's later in the comics.
Yeah,
yes.
so they made her they made her the new female Thor, and this and so I remember when it first like was revealed, this YouTuber who like honestly like is is not like great, like Grace Randolph. She was theorizing that they gave Jane Foster the helm of Thor to bring in Natalie Portman for more movies because you can see like now like Jane Foster's like a strong hero. And like that would be more compelling than like just a love interest scientist for Thor, But it was I mean, I don't like the person who presented it, but it was an interesting point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's not coming back.
She is not coming back. Yeah.
She's done. They're done.
The thing is that I always was annoyed by the Earth set scenes, especially in the second Thor movie, where they were just grating. You had Stellan Skarsgård like running around in his underpants in Stonehenge. You had Kat Dennings, like, with her comedy antics that were just very distracting, I felt.
And that one guy that I don't even know, there was that one guy. Remember that one guy?
Yeah, the intern got an intern in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
the intern that got what?
An intern.
Like, Kat Dennings played an intern, and then the plot of that movie is that she gets her subplot is that she gets her own intern, and then they make out at the end for some reason. It was just silly. But
that whole movie is just so...
Yeah, and I felt like Natalie Portman kind of represented the the annoyance of that subplot. So, like, you know, you get into Ragnarok, and they break up off screen. It's a one joke line. Tessa Thompson's a female lead. No, like, barely any Earth-set scenes, and it's just like, it's a Thor movie, like, straight through.
Remember when they were talking about, oh, my woman is doing this, and my woman is doing this in Age of Ultron?
Yeah.
And then Maria Hill's like, testosterone, which I guess is supposed to be a funny line, but yeah.
I think I got muffled out, but it's good.
Yeah.
I got muffled out.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon quips right here.
Classic Josh Whedon quips.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I wonder if there's like sort of like a wider like functional question about like what the desire is to see romance even exist in these movies. Like what, because like what we're like a lot of these relationships like seem like evidence of just like poorly created, uncomplicated relationships between two characters. So I'm like, what the better version of that then? What would that look like? Or like seeing a character go through, which I guess we can maybe get to when we get to like the later relationships, which are like Jessica Jones or stuff, which are better.
Oh yeah.
But then like what in these like singular character like Thor, Iron Man films, like what would the more complicated love relationship be?
Yeah, that's tough. I think that's tougher for movies because you only have like 2 hours maybe, whereas like a TV show you have a whole season to kind of flesh things out. Like, do you have any opinions on that, Dave? Like in terms of movie romances, are there any like examples you can cite of like movies that not necessarily aren't about romance but handle it in like a complicated but like good way?
We're not talking like Bridget Jones' Diary. We're talking like we're talking like I don't even know, not even Cloud Atlas.
Where is Renee?
Where's Renee? Where's Renee? Hashtag where is Renee? We're not talking about like Bridget Jones' Diary movies. We're talking about like In Bruges. There we go. I don't know. I couldn't think of a movie.
In Bruges, the first movie you thought of.
Yeah, that literally was the other movie I could think
That's
of.
really funny.
The only other movie I could think of that's like action oriented, but wasn't like the focus wasn't the relationship.
Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Yeah, he's having marriage troubles, and then I guess saving a whole skyscraper of people saved his marriage. I don't know. I'm struggling to think of like. I mean, they tried to do the whole like Titanic is like a whole thing where it's like a historical epic, but there's like a romance at the center of it. So I'm not sure if is it a historical movie? Is it a romantic movie? I don't really know. But what's
historical
really
fiction.
Yeah. I remember Patty Jenkins, who ended up directing Wonder Woman. She left Thor: The Dark World. She left Thor 2. And I think a recent interview she said that she wanted her Thor movie to be like a Romeo and Juliet-esque story of some sort, and I guess that just didn't work with Marvel. So I'm really wondering what that would have entailed with the Thor Jane romance, if the romance would actually be like the center of the movie and like be a little more fleshed out and complicated. But like I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
With that, speaking of Patty Jenkins, I kind of liked how Wonder Woman did it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you can make an argument that Wonder Woman and Captain America have somewhat similar storylines, but I think that, you know, how, like, yeah, I also agree in that, like, Wonder Woman still, like, got her, like, own space, like, be a character, and, like, so did...
No, they're the same, because the Wonder Woman sequel's gonna happen in the 80s. It's gonna happen in the 80s. Hear me out.
Okay.
And And Chris Pine's character
He's alive.
is still alive.
He's wearing a tracksuit and sneakers.
Just like Bucky in Winter Soldier.
Steve Trevor?
So really,
who the hell
the
is Steve
true
Trevor?
love in the first Avenger is not Peggy, it's Bucky. And the Tumblr girls go wild.
Welcome back to APDC, where we talk about the...
But yeah, I guess, actually, this is a transition.
Yeah, do
because
you want to talk about Steve and Peggy?
Yeah, because I think, Anthony, you were mentioning I think Anthony had mentioned, like, how all it's a phase, like, for Thor and Jane, it was a phase 1 relationship. Like, they're all meant to be, like, weak and, like, not great. And then you have Steve and Peggy, which is still...
Bad.
Okay.
I still
Really?
think it's bad. I think she's a better character. See, here's the thing. You can have good relationship, bad characters. And you can have great characters, but
And
a bad
relationships.
Bad relationship. I think that the relationship and showing the, like, them interacting, bad. I think that Peggy is a cool character. I just don't think that there wasn't enough oomph. Maybe a little bit more. It's better than the other two, but it needs a little bit more oomph in my eyes.
I think it definitely suffered from the fact that, like, she died and then woke up 70 years later. But I think that it's still like it's definitely a stronger relationship, because more so of the fact that, like, Peggy really loves Steve for, like, who he is. Like, yeah, he turned into, like, a muscly, almost god, but Peggy really focused, like, she appreciates Steve more for, like, who he was when he was, like, a scrappy little nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And then the muscles were, like, after, like, Steve took the serum and all that, I don't think it really changed Peggy's feelings, like, that much. I mean, like, the physicality, but, like, Peggy still appreciated him, like, deep down, like, for who he is. And then you can sort of say that with Pepper and Tony, just because, like, they learned to live with each other. But for Thor and Jane, I don't know if you can say that. Like,
yeah. Did they ever fondue though? Remember that little gag?
No, but I just remember.
No.
Do
I
you
just
two
remember.
fondue?
No, I just remember. For a crazy homeless guy, he's pretty cut. Kat Dennings, Thor.
Oh dear God, no. No, I was more referring to the first Avenger when, like, Steve Rogers thought that, like, when Howard Stark and Peggy Carter, like, talking about fondue or something like that, and, like, Steve misinterprets that as, like, a metaphor. But I really do like that last shot of Peggy Carter, like, kind of looking at Steve's file, like, after he's presumed dead, and she feels, like, more nostalgic over, like, the skinny Steve photo, which I thought was kind of a little nice moment. But I don't know, I'm actually kind of blanking on how that romance really started. Like, what was the spark of that? Does anyone even remember?
Peggy, I think,
went to go pick him up or something. No,
they first met when sorry, I'm charging my computer. Steve was already in the army, and then some dude made some remark to Peggy, and Peggy was like, "No thanks," and, like, kicked him in the balls, and it didn't help. And she was also, like, a pretty girl, like, for Steve, and he was, like, this scrawny little thing who thought he had no chance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that. That's interesting. Especially with the kicking in the balls.
I'm pretty sure she, like, I just remember, like, another soldier, like, saying some, like, remark, and Peggy was like, "That's not gonna fly around here. You'll respect me."
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of ideas behind Steve and Peggy, but, like, the fact that I don't even remember, like, what the spark of the relationship was. Like, I just remember them, like kissing on the moving vehicle before he goes on the plane is, like, a very good image.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm honestly just struggling to, like...
It's not memorable.
Yeah. It's memorable, like, after he dies. Like, that's a big thing. Like, he dies. Like, that's, like, the bigger thing. It's more of, like, like, what happened after.
I mean, their reunion in The Winter Soldier, like, it's, like, what, like a 2-minute, 3-minute long scene? But, like, it's really really just gets at you. Like, it really, like,
Yeah.
tugs at your heartstrings. But here's the thing. I think that scene would have still worked if they were just good friends and not, like, a romantic pairing. That's just me, but, like...
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
Yeah. And then, you know, like, her TV show kind of, like, the first season is about her kind of getting over his death. And then the second season is, like, her pursuing other romances, which I think... I don't know if I totally like, because it's like this TV show about, like, you know, empowering this woman in a time period where, like, you know, like, sexism more so than today was, like, more rampant in the workplace, and, like, she just couldn't get anything done. And the fact that, like, her arcs in her own TV show are, like, defined by, like,
Males.
yeah, exactly. Like,
Mhm.
there's a dance number in the second season, like a dream sequence when he's like trying to choose between the two men. And it's like, what am I watching this?
That's sad.
Yeah,
It's really sad.
decent dance number, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, and then Steve just makes out with his aunt in
His-
Civil War with
Yeah.
his
not
niece.
on
With her-
his
with
knee,
her
her
niece.
niece,
Her niece.
Good God.
who's technically like
Chris
50
is-
years younger.
Chris is scarred.
Yeah. That was some shit.
If you want to talk about lack of spark, let's talk about Sharon Carter. Oh my God.
Ah!
Wait, but it happened in Winter Soldier. She was.
They're flirting. They're flirting for a bit, like in their
They don't
apartment
even.
building.
Do they
and
even
then
flirt? Do they even flirt? Come on.
They're like,
Come
oh, I
on.
shouldn't
Come
like.
on.
Like,
when
not
they're talking about the
really.
laundry, yeah, like they.
Or, like,
It's gross.
It's
Yeah.
not good flirting. Like it was forced.
Yeah, because like no, like the whole like there's like a little through line of like Natasha trying to get Steve Rogers a date, which I found interesting. It's like and Steve Rogers like I'm too busy. But there was like a little moment between him and Sharon where like you know like she's doing the laundry and he's like you don't want to put your clothes in the same with mine. I was just in the infected ward or whatever, and Steve's like. Oh, I shouldn't get too close to it. And Sharon just kind of turns around in the most inorganic way, says like, oh, I hope not, or something like that. It was like, and she kind of gives this look, and I'm like, no, no. And this is before he knew about her relation with Peggy Carter. But I don't know. They kiss in Civil War, and it's like the least organic scene ever.
Oh
And
yeah.
you turn to Cap's wingmen, and they kind of give an approving nod. It's like, no, don't you enable this. Don't enable
That was
this.
funny. That was a funny moment, and you fucking know it.
It's
that
funny.
That moment
Yeah.
was so hilarious.
Yeah.
And makes it for a perfect buddy.
It was a
movie.
good.
God
It was a.
damn.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
talked.
Anthony's been talking
It is.
about
It is
this.
a thing
Yeah.
for like every single episode of this entire show.
You did
Buddy
bring it
cop
up. You did bring it up in episode
Falcon
14.
and Winter Soldier. Teaming up.
This is so off topic, but now I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering like, oh, like if okay, I'm still thinking about like what what would be gained from like a really strong romantic
Right.
relationship in a film in a Marvel film besides like the clear weak points that we just pointed out. Now I'm
Sure.
like, okay, is there like an aspect of like related? Not that necessarily go into Marvel films looking
Sure.
for relatability, but like if I was going to fuck Captain America, like what qualities in him would I be looking for? And like similarly on like what's missing from these relationships that I'm just like, oh, like, and if I'm not looking for relatability or something familiar, then like what is the am I looking for like a fantasy element like from this relationship? I don't know.
Right,
Like
yeah.
what
What will make you swipe right on a Sinner but bio?
Yeah.
Here's a example I'm going to cite. I wasn't going to get into this until later, but I kind of want to mention it. That might help the discussion as we go on. But I don't know if you're familiar with Red Letter Media. They do like these very long reviews of these Star Trek and Star Wars films. Very infamous for like being very targeted. Like they don't really like when they talk about the Phantom Menace. They don't focus on Jar Jar Binks. They don't talk about the midichlorians. They talk about how the plot doesn't make any sense. So they did a Force Awakens review, and they kind of got into the topic of the lack of romance in that movie. And he was saying like, oh, people like want Poe and Finn to have a thing, or And like I'm okay with that, or like even if it's just like Rey and Finn. But the fact is that like the fact that there was no romantic subplot, it kind of took away this energy that the original trilogy have. So he kind of showed the scene of like it's the first Star Wars movie and they just escape from the Death Star, and it's just a scene of like the characters just talking and kind of going in and out of the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. And there's a little bit where it's just Han and Luke alone, and Han's like, "What do you think, kid? You think a princess and a guy like me?" And then Luke just interrupts and says, "No," like really awkwardly, but like in a very funny but like real human moment.
Yeah.
So in a way that like kind of that kind of added this in the midst of this fantastical space stuff, it kind of made them into like real human beings. Whereas like in The Force Awakens, and I realized this without realizing the romantic aspect of it, but The Force Awakens just kept going and going and going and going, and like plot line to plot line, and there was no time to breathe in that movie.
There was no breath moment.
And that's a J.J. Abrams thing because he's just freaking frantic. But yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
No, I was gonna say kind of like it was hopping between moments that would get people excited who loved the old movies, like the original trilogy.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this thing happened in this movie, so we're hopping from this really fun thing that happened in this movie to this really fun thing that happened in this movie, and we're gonna change it slightly.
I mean, think about how Leia and Han's relationship kind of grew very slowly in Empire Strikes Back, where it's like it kind of starts out like hostile, and they're not really flirting, but like you see like the energy just kind of like
there's a spark.
Exactly, it's like growing between them, and like their first kiss is like in a claustrophobic, dirty space, and it gets like rudely interrupted by C-3PO. But like it felt like very. It felt real, like the way like the camera was like slowly going into their faces, whereas like
you could feel like the tension, like it was rising, like oh my god, they're gonna kiss, like oh my god, they're gonna kiss, and then they do it, and then fucking C-3PO comes and be like, yo, I'm like,
I did this for the inane thing, and then but then citing Red Letter Media again, like you get to Attack of the Clones, and you have like Anakin and Padme, another Natalie Portman character. There's like giant CGI waterfalls behind them, and they're in space Venice on a space gondola.
You want to say that again? You want to say that word again? Oh, space Venice. It actually is space Venice. I thought you were gonna say space Venus, and I was just like, that's not how anything works.
No, they are on Venice. They are basically on a space Venice, and it's space because there are giant pig creatures, and the gondola looks slightly different. That romance was terrible. It was one of like the worst movie romances ever because it was very, it was so basic in like a, I guess in a Romeo and Juliet way. Because like Romeo and Juliet, they just look at each other and then they're in love with each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that was the.
But it's star-crossed. It's forbidden.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, and now I'm just thinking about it. Did Shakespeare mean that to happen?
Mean for what to happen?
What?
Like for them to just automatically fall in love, like in Romeo and Juliet? Is there like some deeper
Wow.
I feel like we're going like so off topic.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is going to help inform us talking about the rest of the relationships because like Anakin and Padme was just so basic on like this level, like probably even lower than these ones we already talked about, but
I hate sand.
Of
course. It gets everywhere.
It's rough, it's coarse.
You. I think that quote kind of signifies how shitty that relationship was in the prequels.
Yeah, because George Lucas is like telegraphing everything. He's like trying to write flowery pose.
And what?
Like it's
he's like,
and it doesn't work at all because it's all bad.
Yeah,
and
it's like just, not interesting.
Because like the romance, most of the romance you see on screen is them talking about the romance, whereas like I don't know. They did a little bit of that in Empire Strikes Back, but like it's really like the physical and emotional performance aspects of it, and the way like Irving Kershner directed that. George Lucas doesn't know how to direct shit. I think. But I don't know. I should give him credit because like I cited like that scene in the original Star Wars that I loved. So I don't know.
He can. I guess he can. I mean, I guess he can start things off, but he can't like. If he keeps going, it's gonna end badly.
Well, I don't know. Like people, like directors, like they change over years. So like maybe he just didn't have it in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Well, to skirt back to Marvel right quick.
Yeah, sure.
It just seems like this central conflict in like the first three relationships we described was like a conflict between like I'm normal and you're not, and your powers are like taking you far. I don't know. I think I'm thinking about Jessica.
Yeah,
like I think it makes sense that like in Jessica Jones like had the most complicated relationships because like they're also dealing with like very real trauma.
Yeah,
oddly enough,
they're kind
and
of
like
united
that, I don't know.
way.
I just want to. Yeah, so I'm thinking about like what would make. Like the aspect of tension comes from like these characters having flaws that go beyond simply like their powers, like Tony Stark being like, "Oh, I have to go like venture away to be a hero," and her like, "No."
Yeah.
Like,
so I think we can talk about the rest of these relationships. Like we have Peter Quill and Gamora, Scarlet Witch and Vision, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage.
Which arguably all those relationships that we just listed are 10 times better than the Phase 1 ones.
Yeah,
they're good,
absolutely.
but they are 10 times better.
I think the weakest out of these three, and we haven't even gone to like Fitzsimmons yet, is like Peter and Gamora, just because like I personally think it's like,
because of the time jump. Because of the time jump.
Exactly.
It's the time jump that
given it haven't like learned anything, but we've seen
like,
them develop like as a friendship. And that's still,
at
like,
the end of Guardians 2, they didn't kiss, they held each other, but like in a nice like familial way.
Yeah, it was like an appreciation for each other, and like that was compelling.
Like a platonic love for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Volume 2 was kind of setting up, Peter trying to win her over romantically, and it was.
He tried to do it in
Guardians
1, though.
Sure.
I mean, that was 3 months earlier, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and then Infinity War, like Gamora says, "I love you more than anything," and I'm like, "Yo, what did I miss here? Like, holy shit, what?"
It's been like 5 years.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
And so many things have happened.
They've been hanging out. They've been doing shit.
Yeah. But like Sam Reardon was telling us this in like the Infinity War postmortem, but like, they thought that those characters didn't mature enough for like that relationship to make sense because Peter is still
a child,
a bumbling idiot,
a child. Sure, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, like conceptually, like they're both equals. Like they're both on the same team, and they have like they have like a similar power level. So it's not there's none of that burden that you really see in those other relationships, and they have interesting contrasts. Like Peter is a little bit of a scoundrel, and Gamora's a little more focused on like morality. Like when they're arguing in Infinity War about like, oh yeah, let's take their shit, and Gamora's like, nope, don't do that. Almost like in a Han Solo Princess Leia way, one might say. Yeah. But one might say.
I mean, Guardians is a space opera.
Yeah.
Opera.
Yeah.
What happened next in the timeline of Marvel films?
Well, Scarlet Witch and Vision kind of.
Yeah.
Now this is the one I really want to talk about.
I guess can I add on to that, and
yeah.
Can we also transition to like Scarlet Witch and Vision, but also like comic iconic couples in like Marvel compared to DC, because like you have Scarlet Witch and Vision, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and then just sort of like those are the two like very
MJ and
ones.
Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
MJ, Spider-Man. I'm trying to think of other. I mean, obviously Pepper and Tony are big ones too.
Yeah, but like the thing is like here's the thing though. I think a lot of these couples became more iconic after the movies. Is that
well?
right?
I think
true.
Well, yeah. I think
just like natural.
I think Spider-Man. I mean, not Spider-Man. Superman and Lois is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's DC.
And then no, you were gonna say what does DC have? I thought that's what you were getting at.
Oh no, I was like just saying.
Oh,
just the
like
lack
comparing
of
those. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just
My
the
bad.
lack in general, just like tying in like how notable like Scarlet Witch and Vision is, and like these two notable couples, I think that are pretty developed, like Scarlet Witch and Vision, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and then comparing how like they're really cashing in more on like these comic iconic couples, and like rather than like everything else that's like less notable, and like straying away from like MJ and Spider-Man, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, Scarlet Witch and Vision.
There was a so as I mentioned before on this podcast, I watched literally everything leading up to Infinity War because I am a loser and I am dumb. And I watched it was a 20-minute press interview with the entire cast of the movie, the directors, and Kevin Feige. And it was hosted by Jeff Goldblum.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great time. And Scarlet Witch got a question about where she thinks like Vision and Scarlet Witch will go in the future and stuff. And Elizabeth Olsen said that she really wanted to do, like, she's been talking to Paul Bettany about, like, hey, what if we did, like, a House of M thing where, like, you and me hung out on an island and we did, like, this indie drama flick. And I was thinking, that would be really cool, actually. Because it deals, like, you can have, what happens in the comics is essentially, House of M is Scarlet Witch, basically, something happens with her powers go awry, and then she wipes out all the mutants. So
Whoops.
And because she is in such disarray because of that, she goes to an island and kind of recluses herself. So why don't they do that and then to kind of have like this indie film, like film noir, like those two kind of
before sunrise, but with superheroes.
Yes, there it is. Before sunrise, but with superheroes. There we go. And I was just like, that would actually be really cool because we've been kind of lacking on like a romantic, MCU movie. We have all these other genres. Why don't we do like a romantic comedy, or something, or like a romantic drama or something like that? I'm like, all right.
I feel like there was a rumor that Ant-Man and the Wasp was going to be that rom-com, but like they denied that. But,
yeah, Payne Reed like shut it down.
I don't think Ant-Man and the Wasp would have been good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with Peyton Reed's rom-com experience, but the thing with Scarlet Witch and Vision.
Oh, you mean the Russo brothers rom-com experience? With you, me, and Dupree.
You Mean Dupree was not a rom-com. That was
it's a rom-com.
That was
right?
That was Matt Dillon being annoyed at Owen Wilson for being a bad roommate.
Oh,
even though he like just got recently married. But anyway, Scarlet Witch and the Vision. Scarlet Witch and Vision, I feel like a lot of it had to depend on your knowledge of the fact that they just are a thing in the comics.
Yes.
Yeah. So
like it was a big like tease like during Ultron.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I mean, there is a lot of Wanda Vision interaction in Civil War, but I liked it. I thought it was sure. Yeah.
I thought it added a little bit more to the rest of the movie. Like I knew they were they're together at that point in some capacity, but I think it added spacing and it allowed the movie to breathe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that was good. I thought that was good scene work. Like like I was talking about the whole Star Wars example, and it was just like two people talking, in the midst. Like I think I was talking about this with some other people the other week, but I love the cuts of it's the end of the first act of Civil War, and that was the whole Captain America, Bucky, Falcon, Black Panther chase scene. And everything is kind of grounded to a halt. Rhodey is arresting them. T'Challa like dramatically takes off his helmet, and there's like booming dramatic music in the background, and Rhodey's like, "Congrats, Cap, you're a criminal," which is like this really like important moment, and then it just smash cuts to Vision like putting salt on something in the kitchen, and it's like this very calm scene
of
a
paprika
robot in a sweat. Yeah, paprika. Yeah, and it's like that was totally an intentional cut because the Russos are like they have a comedy background, so it's like diffuse the tension. Yeah,
diffuse the tension. Yeah,
I love that cut so much.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think that's a really unique a unique artistic choice, and I mean that in a very serious way, not in a
I get it.
Unique artistic choice.
Yeah, the paprika represents the conflict that has been
the red blood that will flow in the war to come.
Well, here's my question about those Wanda and Vision scenes in the middle of their arc, seeing Ultron as the beginning and Infinity War as the end, because they dead. So,
Spoiler.
Does that translate as romance? Because, and maybe it's because of the age difference between Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, but could that be interpreted as the protectiveness, that doesn't
of each
necessarily...
other? They do protect each other, which I think is.
Yeah.
Which I think is way better than any other superhero relationship that I have seen so far.
More so in Infinity War, but I feel like it was more one-sided in Civil War.
Because it's the same thing like Sam had mentioned. Like, there's this chunk of time, because, I mean, for Peter and Gamora, it was 4 years, but for Civil War, theoretically, it's just two. Theoretically. And you still... But I think you can argue that there's still a lot that you missed out on, because now they're living together and they share a bed.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely developed, because I think in Civil War they had feelings for each other, and Vision had more feelings, but he didn't know what those are because he's a robot.
What are these
Scarlet
feelings?
was focusing on herself and not really caring about that, but also still cared for each other. But I think during that 2-year break where we don't see them, I guess it's when they realize their feelings, in some sense.
Now they're just getting hotel rooms in exotic locations, and
getting it on.
Yeah. Vision has a vibranium dick, and
I didn't need that. At all.
Come on,
I did not need that. No.
It is a question though about the practical considerations of having sex with a superhero. What does that vibranium do?
Oh my god. Wakanda forever. Alright, stop that, Anthony.
Please!
Did you have strong opinions on Scarlet Witch / Vision? I feel like...
I'm still on vibranium dick, but... I do, so the whole, ending of Infinity War, rests on, Scarlet Witch making this decision, am I going to, kill my lover or not? And,
sacrifice.
They're, kill, sacrifice, practically she ends his life for the sake of humanity. It doesn't work, whatever. In any case, though, if... I don't know, I'm curious, if that decision actually carried any weight for y'all. Based on, their, romance or their love for each other.
I think that... Also, sorry I'm talking a lot. But I think that it was a little bit impactful, because, you've seen them develop their relationship throughout these years. But you also in the back of your mind knew, they're gonna get the minds. Well, it can't be that easy. They're gonna get the minds. Thanos is gonna get the mind stone anyway. It felt like it was impactful, but also felt like something's wrong. This isn't right.
Well, that was that came at a certain point in the movie where you knew that he was going to get them all. There was still a point early on in the movie where you knew he wasn't. Something happened. If something happened earlier on in the movie, you were oh, okay, they're gonna be fine. But there was a point where it was still in limbo.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem with their arc in Infinity War is that I think it does a good job to serve the rest of the movie in terms, thematically, because the whole movie was about sacrifice. The whole movie, I think in the screenwriter's words, it's about if Captain America: The First Avenger was about jumping on the grenade, Infinity War is about throwing someone else at the grenade. So it worked well with the whole real commentary from the filmmakers. But I mean, that as silly as that worded, but it's true. It's about being willing to sacrifice other people, and that works for this pair of characters. The problem is that comparatively, they get a very small chunk of screen time to establish that they're in a relationship, in a serious relationship, because they're trying to have their own before sunrise moments, oh, what if I just missed all the trains, and Paul Bettany and Like, I swear, it's like just still before sunrise into like 2 minutes, and then you get.
Like, why can I hear that in his voice? Like, what if I miss
Because
trains?
hold on, I just have a quick question. Is Before Sunrise a British movie?
No.
No, it's American.
Like,
no,
maybe I was
Ethan
thinking
Hawke
of
is an
another
American
British
boy.
movie that that was about like a couple getting together.
Maybe
it's.
There's
maybe
a lot
it's
of
Love
those.
Actually type of thing. Or...
Well, I mean, the Before trilogy, like all three of those movies are like Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy literally just walking around in exotic locales for 90 minutes, and like it feels authentic, it feels real, organic, and you see the romance bloom.
I don't know why that's one of your favorite movies.
It's just watch them. Watch all three movies. They were all filmed and take place 9 years apart, so you get to see them. Like how in different stages of the relationship, it's a great trilogy. Anyway, that's never gonna happen. We're never gonna have MCU Before Sunrise.
We should talk about TV relationships.
Yeah, we should. I just really want to talk about Fitzsimmons.
Yeah,
I just love Fitzsimmons so
I can
much.
feel it.
We haven't talked about S.H.I.E.L.D. on the show in a hot minute.
Yeah,
like, we didn't
that's true.
We didn't talk about it on our Power Creep episode.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it in our Christianity
Yeah, you guys
episode.
didn't talk about Quake at all. I was surprised about that.
No, I always felt that, like, the Inhumans were just kind of like...
Oh,
meh.
sure. Yeah. Well, the thing about Fitzsimmons is that... Here's the thing with TV show romance. Is you kind of get into, like, this will they, won't they deal. But with Fitzsimmons, it's like...
When they...
Well, a little bit, but like, I mean, I was actually doubting that for a long time, but like, you want it to happen, and when it does happen, it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're together, the drama is not, because I feel like a lot of TV show romances it's a lot of like, a lot of contrived arguments for the sake of creating artificial drama for a television show. And a lot of, like, breaking up and, like, getting back together again, and breaking up and getting back together again.
Ross and Rachel, will they, won't
sure,
they?
Yeah, yeah.
Literally, I hate Ross and Rachel. Don't get me started. Don't fucking at me. It's fucking... I stopped watching Friends after fucking Ross said, you know what, I'm not going to get married to this perfectly fine person.
Strong.
Fuck this. I fucking hate this.
Friends.
It's Friends. You're not missing much.
Yeah,
I know.
like, I don't know.
I know,
like...
but everyone kept talking about it. Everyone kept talking about it. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to eat my Chipotle. I'm going to watch some Friends.
Yeah.
No, it's just... No, I'm good. I'm done. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've never really watched Friends, TBH. I just can't. But the thing with Fitzsimmons is that the conflict arises from them, like, physically being separated from each other. Like, they had to transport Simmons to a separate planet to create conflict. They had to, because you're invested in this relationship, you're like, oh
Time
man,
travel.
I'm going to feel invested because I want them to, like, get back together. Like, I want to have that rewarding moment where they find each other again.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a much better way to go for it. Whereas, like, I don't watch Arrow, but I know a lot of
Like
Arrow
Felicity?
fans. Felicity,
Like Oliver and Felicity?
and Oliver. I heard that's just bad. And the funny part is that the showrunner keeps using the word organic when describing. Listen, everything's gotta be organic. It's gotta be organic. And it's just a lot of, like...
Is it like when you go into Whole Foods and you see the word organic?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, that's
it
Arrow
becomes
in a
numb
nutshell.
it becomes numb to you. You don't even give a shit anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of things that I described as being contrived and annoying in TV romance is that apparently, from what I've read, that's exactly what Arrow does. And wasn't there a thing in the crossover episode where, like, Barry Allen?
Which one?
The latest
like
one
40.
with the Nazi alternate planet or something like that. I forget.
Oh,
but,
what?
yeah, those
Chris,
are the CW.
none of us
shows
have caught up.
Yeah.
Whatever you say will go over our
Okay,
head.
all right.
Please.
Let me describe a thing to you that people got
Heroes
mad
of
about.
Tomorrow. What is it? Heroes of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow,
Legends of
which I
Tomorrow.
heard is okay.
Legends of Tomorrow. We don't watch that.
We're on the
but-
CW now? No.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I heard happened in the latest season, in the latest crossover. So the latest crossover was centered around the marriage of
Barry and Iris.
Barry and Iris. And
Wait a minute. Is it that they're unholy or holy union? creates a time rift?
I hope so, but I actually don't know that for a fact.
Because this is literally the plot of Super Paper Mario, where Bowser and Peach have to get married.
Great game.
And then that opens up a giant void that destroys all dimensions.
Well, that's not what happens.
Every relationship I've ever been in. We just come together and it just opens up a giant void.
Yeah. Well,
that was good.
I wouldn't say the void is that. The void is that Oliver proposes to Felicity at the end of their wedding or something like that.
What?
Don't do that!
Move.
Don't do that!
That's
a bad thing to
like
do.
That's a dick move.
And everyone just got mad on the internet. I hope I got that accurately.
No, that's a dick move.
Clearly, that's what happened.
Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. So, what I'm trying to say is that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is better than the CW shows in every single way possible, especially in terms of romance. Because Fitzsimmons, I want to protect them.
That's the preview. And
that is not a hot take to us, but probably to everyone else, it is a very big hot take.
Yeah, please at me. Like, there's literally no way you can argue against me because you're wrong.
Hit me with your best shot.
Olicity shippers, come at me because you're wrong. Except for Daisy and Lincoln, that was a bad romance. Anyway, Jessica Jones.
That was the only thing that they had together was the fact that they were both on the run together,
and they were Inhumans.
That dude was so generic. I don't remember anything about him.
He was attractive, but he was very generic.
I don't even think he was that attractive. Anyway,
Jessica Jones and
Leo Fitz is my favorite MCU character. Just in case I haven't said it on the record, I like any of the movie characters. Did you want to talk about Jessica Jones / Luke Cage?
So, arguably, I think it's not only is one of the more iconic ones. I think even more in Scarlet Witch and Vision, but y'all can debate about that. But I think it's also like really done well. I think you mentioned, Dave, really early in the show, because we've been kind of teasing it, that like they have shared, Jessica and Luke have like shared trauma. Mm-hmm. Like they've been through all this stuff, and since they're on a TV show, they have like more time to devote on their feelings and whatnot. And they go through they have gone through ups and downs. I haven't watched the second season because I am the worst of Jessica Jones. It's so bad. But that's an aside. But like, I know Luke Cage doesn't make an appearance, but I know at the very least in the first season, it's a thing. They go their separate ways after she shoots him. But I think it's interesting how like they set it up to be like they said. I mean, I remember in the first season, I knew they were iconic, and I know like I assumed they would set up for like something more. And then when I watched it and they sort of broke off, and Luke Cage went to Claire, I was like, I think Luke and Claire like work fairly well, but I remember being like a little surprised. And just to tie in, I guess, some more of like my MCU, Netflix, and like the comics world. I know, I remember when like it was first announced like Misty was in like Iron Fist season 2, and like they were talking about that. There was people on the internet were like heated because Danny and Misty weren't together, and it was Danny and Colleen. Like, my personal view is Colleen should have never been involved with Danny in the first place, but that's an aside. But I just remember, I have thoughts.
Go off.
But Danny and Misty, the fact that Danny and Misty were not together, even though they were such an iconic couple in the comics, it was a really big deal to a lot of like comic book fans. My personal view / G is that Danny made Colleen a significantly worser character because they made her as like a fucking love interest, and she was a strong, independent woman on her own, and just dragged down some Asian representation with it. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Talk about it.
It's passive aggressively not fine. But Danny's just stupid, and Colleen should not have gotten with him in the first place, and I don't know why fucking Scott Buck made it a thing. Okay, as a flashback, so Chris, our friend Raquel and I used to be on an episode of Chris and Raquel's Runaways podcast, and Raquel thinks Danny Rand is really hot.
Nope,
and
he isn't.
I interjected in that episode, and I was like, nope, you are wrong, ma'am. This is incorrect information.
Oh boy.
But yeah, that is a fact.
He's hot in like if I saw him playing guitar in Central Park, I'd be like, oh, that sounds nice. I think. Wait, okay, Izzy, you said something about being disappointed that Luke and Jessica didn't end up together, or like that they parted ways at the end of the first season. Well, no, I just think that's like the first time in like this whole episode anyone's actually like expressed like a feeling of like rooting for a couple to happen.
Fitzsimmons,
or like. Okay, fair. You get that one. It's like, yeah, they're like struggling with real, like, Jessica has trouble with vulnerability and shit. I'm just like, oh my god, talk about it. And then they talk about it and their relationship evolves. And I'm like, yo, okay. And I'm like, okay, that's like, it seems like, okay, that's what, in terms of like romance, in terms of like, two superheroes having romantic interaction, like, Jessica Jones sets his ambition for a certain amount of like, realism, which is nice. It's like, we like root for that couple and we're like, yay. But then I'm like, okay, what are these other like movies setting their romantic ambitions for these characters? Like, are they actually going after like characters who we root for to get together, or is that actually not? Because like the other ones just serve like Scarlet Witch and Vision serve like a plot function of like we need to have like this choice at the end, and like other ones like, oh, we need like a heartstring that we can tug so that, like the villain can have collateral over the superhero or something like that. So like, what's the? I don't know. I'm just very curious about like if you like judging the movies on like the ambitions that they set for these characters and whether or not they meet that. Because like so many of the romantic relationships in like the other films have been like shitty, and I'm like, okay, what do we think they were going for, or how do we make that better?
Yeah. I think we're kind of jumping ahead, but I think in Phase 3, Marvel sort of adjusts their relationship sort of to like be more organic and be more like looking out for each other. Like T'Challa and Nakia, like Nakia actually helps to change T'Challa's like perspective and mind you, and it's much more focused on like their own personal beliefs rather than like supporting like their own like personal beliefs and like helping them to like become better people and changing rather than like wholeheartedly supporting just one side. And then yeah, I think that's the more, it's like Steven and Christine is like is still like fairly weak in Phase 3, and Peter and Laura is not, as from Spider-Man Homecoming, is like on, but I think T'Challa and Nakia stands out the most because it's a relationship like Nakia and T'Challa in that relationship, like Nakia helps to change like T'Challa's mind. She brings in a different perspective.
Yeah.
And you had like established history, and then when you see them get together, it is like you almost like forget about the romantic subplot, but when it pays off, you realize how much like they bettered each other. And it's a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Nakia basically, like... I mean, I was right. I was actually watching Black Panther with Ryan Coogler's commentary last night. And, you know, Coogler was talking about how he made a point that it is the women in his life that basically saved him at the end. And, you know, they kind of... Yeah, and they kind of get back together at the end, you know, at Nakia and T'Challa. But it starts off the same way as like Stephen Strange and
Christine.
Rachel McAdams. Christine, yeah. Sorry, I can't remember her name.
Did we even write that relationship down?
I did.
Well, yeah. So the Salon article that I put on this prep doc is kind of it kind of uses Stephen and Christine as like the center of that. Because, like, they both T'Challa and Nakia and Christine and Steven, they both start off the movie, like, having been broken up already. I think that's how the new Spider-Man game starts, right? With MJ having broken up with
they broke up.
Yeah.
But Peter's already in college in the game.
Yeah, sure. But, I mean, the point of this... Who amongst you absorbed the Salon article the most before we started?
I read this article for a class beforehand, and basically it's... So it's called how the MCU kind of in the MCU superheroes being scrubbed of desire, and basically like, so I think this might be like in general, but like comparatively, like you see in like 2008's Iron Man, like Tony has like a one night stand with a journalist, and the most romantic that Doctor Strange gets is that Christine kisses Steven on the cheek, and it's more of like an understanding between.
Gives him that watch. Gives him that watch. They were already in a relationship, though. They were already in a relationship.
Like, they had broken up, but it was like, or like it was like on the rocks, essentially. But, for example, in other movies, like, you kind of, when Infinity War, you almost like kind of forget that, like, Steven and Christine like were together, or that their relationship was like kind of important, unfortunately, just because like, I mean, granted, like the world is ending and that's a bigger focus, but like still like, but still it talks about how like they're being, as like time progresses, they're being sort of desired, and it ties into how millennials are having less sex and it's becoming more technological. I just
Are millennials ruining sex?
Millennials kill sex tonight at 11.
Okay, I'm gonna throw out Chris. I think you were onto something with vibranium dick because
oh my god, I can't believe we're going back to this.
I'm gonna tie it up. Okay, so Luke Cage and Jessica Jones is like I think the only time when we get to see two superheroes actually having sex.
Yes.
I just see Anthony from behind his mic clapping his hands.
But I think like part of that one that adds like a certain dynamism to the scene, but also if we start like involving like the practical considerations of a relationship in the other superhero dynamics, then we also have to consider like, okay, how are Vision and Scarlet Witch like being intimate with each other? Like, what does that actually look like? And I don't know if actually Marvel's
if he
like
can give
satisfying
hair,
that imagination.
If he can give himself hair and look white, which why white?
Right, motherfucker. Okay.
The commentary in society.
Why does he have to look white? He can literally look like anything.
He's like, I too want to be an oppressor.
Oh man.
That was juicy. I liked it. It was juicy. It was a juicy little take. What was it? Like he gives himself hair. He definitely can, get that little schlong. Right?
Right.
Yeah, he's got to have it. He can have a penis.
But I think
he can change his density at will.
Paul Bettany said that in an interview. He actually said that.
Chris, how are you keeping
do whatever,
it together
man.
right now?
If he can change his density at will, then you know what? If he could add like things that you think are there, because remember it's the mind gem, so your perception of what Vision looks like is morphed. So you could definitely and then you just change the density, and then. Okay.
Wow.
Like Doctor Strange like popping up with like 6 arms.
Yeah.
Those 6 arms can go everywhere.
Real shit. I think these are like legitimate questions to think about considering like romance in like involving superheroes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think Marvel is like trying to honor that part of our imagination.
We glazed over this. We glazed over this a lot. We glazed over the Hulk, Bruce and Betty scene. That big Hulk dick. It was going to come out, and you got to be careful about that. And here's the thing: if you I'm gonna go there. Hulk babies, Hulk cum. Is it gonna be like Magic Baby? Is it gonna be like Magic Hulk Baby? We don't know. Is it like The Mask? Is it like The Mask where if you have sex with someone and you consummate and you're in human form, is the baby's a human, right?
Are you talking about Son of the Mask, the Jamie Kennedy sequel that
yes,
was
of course
very
I'm
bad
talking
and I
about
saw on
Son
an
of the
airplane
Mask.
once?
But then if you're the Hulk and you have sex, is then the baby able to transform back and forth?
These are
wait
a minute, wait a second. Didn't Bruce actually talk about this briefly with Natasha in the bedroom?
He said he's a monster, but I don't think he even mentioned it.
I don't know. I thought he was implying that he was sterile.
Oh, he is sterile. Yes, you're right. I forgot he is sterile.
Y'all remember in the movie Hancock when Hancock came and blasted the roof off?
Wait, what? What does Hancock have to do with this?
It's the Will Smith superhero movie.
What does that have to do with this?
I'm just thinking about what happens? What happens?
Oh, sure, yeah.
But no, okay, like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage gave us like our first example of like, oh, you want to know what happens? Here's what happens. It gets like violent as fuck. We gonna tear it down the whole living room.
Yep.
But they will get the job done. People gonna orgasm out here, and like superheroes need that too.
We're going to destroy the bed.
What Dave just said is evidence that Iron Man has a little something something down there when he's out on long treks. You know what I mean? He's got a little. He's got
No, I don't
nanobots.
know what you mean,
What?
and I want to move on.
He can make those nanobots into anything. All right, I'm done now. I'm done with that.
I think that's what's missing. I think that's what's missing from the other films, though. Is that we don't actually get like an actual glimpse into what
what's great about the
Luke looks like.
What's great about the Luke and Jessica sex scene is that it's very much a trauma-induced fuck. These I mean, I'm gonna hark to one of my favorite artists' albums. The Mountain Goats' album, Tallahassee. No, I'm gonna bring it's
I know, it's just the most
album is
predictable
about-
thing from
it's
you.
about I know, but it's about the alpha couple, a couple that really hates each other, to the point where at the end of the album, they basically fuck and destroy their own house as their house, they wreck everything, and then they have sex while their house is on fire.
Okay.
And then they die together while their house is on fire.
That's a metaphor.
Yeah.
That is a metaphor. You have to listen to all the rest of the songs to kind of get the rest of what they were getting at. But and it kind of reminds me of two very hurt people, two very damaged people, having the ability to be free and and releasing that damage. So but and I think that comes into real life where when two damaged people meet, it can be very destructive in more physical or emotional ways.
I mean, do you remember the first sex scene that they had before they realized that the other one had powers?
It was more passionate.
Oh no, the first time before they realized they had powers. The second time they realized they had powers, so they were just going at it. But the first time it was very uncomfortable and awkward. But the second time around, they knew. Oh. They knew what they can do, and they were bonding over when they're just they're eating out on the street, they're asking each other how they got their powers, and they bond over the fact that they haven't found anyone like this. You know? That's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, isn't that whole thing with the fish oil?
That's so, but yes.
It took you a sec, Chris, to realize what I was talking about. I'm surprised they just never met anyone. There was fish oil, and a lot of people take fish oil. Have you ever been to Whole Foods?
I am imagining an
Whole Foods
MCU
reference twice
an
in this
in-universe
episode.
MCU dating website where people who accidentally become Inhumans through fish oil pills find each other and date.
It's called what the fish in the sea.
My god!
I'm trying to make a joke and it failed.
Yeah,
oh.
There's
nice
a dating
try,
app
at least.
something too many fish in the sea or something or
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
get it. Haha, fish oil. Haha.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. I mean, and Jessica Jones, season 2, which I guess you guys haven't finished, but it's but the thing is that Jessica kind of uses sex as a...
Wait, she's in... Oh, it's not Jessica. I was going to say, is she in Luke Cage season 2?
No.
No, I'm saying that she just screws randos in the first few episodes. There was a scene where she's walking out of a bar and this rando asshat is just hey, nice ass, and Jessica Jones turns around, she's insulted, she's what did you just say to me? They look at each other for a while, and it cuts to them having sex in a dumpster outside. It's
really depressing.
yeah.
That's
really, so that.
That's really fucking depressing.
Yeah, and then you have Malcolm, who is I think a great character in Jessica Jones, and he is, he has kicked his drug addiction, but he has gained a sex addiction.
Which is interesting because it's a thing with it kind of mentions addictive personalities. Is that a thing? It touches upon that, and if you lose one thing, you kind of have to deal with another.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Always having to watch what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is scary because I know people who know they have addictive personalities and will refuse certain things because they know they will get addicted to it. And it's okay, you're watching yourself, you're checking yourself, and it's How do you know this? When did you what did you have to go through to figure that out? Was it something that like it was a good place, you were in a good situation and you kind of understood what was going on, or did you go to the lowest of the low and then had and build yourself back up to get to a spot of like, this is where I need to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Season 2 definitely had a lot of that. I mean, it literally had Trish had like an inhaler that gave her powers that she had an addiction to and had withdrawal when she couldn't find it. So like that's Season 2's interesting in that way.
Speaking of sex addiction, remember that one time in all right, I'm not gonna actually reference it. I was gonna reference Blades of Glory where he went into a sex addiction place.
Yeah, great academic source to cite in this.
Yeah.
I don't know why, it just popped into my head.
I have
a lot of references today.
Yeah, I have. So I hate to like try to mosey this along, but I also really have to go. I have like sort of one more question to sort of close this out.
Sure.
So Captain Marvel is coming out. I think it's the next Marvel movie, and I don't think the Captain Marvel movie has a love interest. What do you think that means? Like based on everything we've talked today, or like I don't know.
Is Jude Law a romantic interest?
No, it's her.
No, I think he's supposed to be the mentor.
Yeah, he's the mentor.
Well, they have that sometimes. They have that mentor love interest thing.
Where?
I've seen it before.
Yeah, like Harry Potter, there's a couple of times. But like, yeah.
Do you feel like it's a statement that they're trying to make their first solo female-led movie and trying to not like, you know, quote unquote drag her down with a romantic interest?
She don't need no man.
I think so. It like makes sense. But if we can, I mean, going on like how, you know, they're like it's like MCU movies have like showing like less and less like sex and whatnot, even though like as they was mentioning, intimacy can like be somewhat powerful in a way and like helping us and helping characters realize like how connected they are to each other. Like, what do you think? Like, do you think the fact that the MCU is omitting this love interest is like, is it just a specific case for this movie because it's Captain Marvel, or do you think it's going to be like a new trend?
I think it would be cool to do a sequel where she tries to find a love interest because, like, not that she needs one, but it's like now she's on Earth, so she's like, yeah, let me hang out with people, and then it's like, oh, you guys all know I'm super powered. That's kind of fucky. Get the fuck out of here.
I wonder if there's maybe a wider question about like why do we as people and as individually like want to see like romance in superhero stories, like aside from just like because like the source material often has like some destined love interest.
Here's a metaphorical, not a metaphor. Here's like a artsy statement. Because if the gods have love too, so can we.
Sure. No, but I guess it's a fair point. But also, like, I'm like, oh, like if she's not falling in love, so the character doesn't need to fall in love, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. If a character doesn't need to fall in love, then they don't need to force a relationship. And I think that kind of goes back to the beginning of what we were kind of talking about. I think they forced a lot of the relationships because of comic book.
Yeah, really, I mean, that's a really good question, Dave, because I'm trying to figure out how to word that, because I'm trying to think about the romances that I've liked in the MCU, and I guess I think it's like exclusively like Fitzsimmons and Jess and Luke. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but not really. But the reason why those have resonated with me, and again, it's the advantage of having a TV show over a movie.
Yeah. It's the time aspect, like. Even like for Scarlet Witch and Vision, like in Peter and Quill and Gamora, like they have like there's a bunch of time we're not seeing them like develop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Should we mention the last two that I was thinking of, which is the last three? So there's Peter and Laura, there's Hope and Scott, and then there's Matt. There's Matt and Elektra.
Oh, we talked about that with Caleb, like how Elektra herself is like an addiction. Yeah. It's very troubling.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like the thing with Fitzsimmons and Jess and Luke is that they, you know, you watch movies for like some sort of satisfaction. You know, Like, whether if it's like from action scenes or from just really good storytelling. And I think that there's something about those romances that are just so, even if they're not relatable, they're just so likable in a way that you want to see that work. That like you're happy to see Jessica and Luke find each other. Like it's just like this very like feel good concept, and watching that being challenged, like the whole angle with like the fact that she killed his wife, it's an interesting way to like add conflict to that, and that leads to interesting TV drama,
Yeah.
And to be honest, I just, even thinking about outside the MCU, I can't really think about movie romances that I really liked. Like I complimented Wonder Woman, but even that like had its own problems. Like they just freaking met, Chris Pine and Diana.
There's some similarities.
And like I liked that because it's like
They're
good.
They're both hot people. Yeah.
Let's watch a steamy sex scene with these two hot people in the middle of this
I think
World War
that
I
too.
movie.
I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people like to shove in relationships, is because people just want to see two hot people in a relationship.
So why can't
I see them bang?
I don't even think people want to see that. Like, I don't know. Like, yes, people want to see. People like want to, but like, I don't know. I want to see some ugly motherfuckers out here.
I do. I do. But I think that's what filmmakers think that other people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen too much purity in these superhero shit.
I want some.
I think that's why Jessica Jones works.
I want ugly motherfuckers having great, beautiful sex.
Or like really depressing, like take my pain away sex.
I think that's a really
Jessica Jones. There you go.
Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Do you guys have any favorite movies in general? Any favorite romances in the movie realm?
In any movie.
Fuck.
Yeah, any movie.
I mean, Cloud Atlas is my favorite movie. I've mentioned this before. There's a couple. So like the relationships in those movies aren't like super fleshed because one, I read the book, and two, you kind of have to infer those relationships based upon how the other storylines kind of interweave and what goes on. But there's a really poetic relationship that goes on between a relationship that happens, a gay relationship that happens in it, and it's like really.
Yeah.
Really
I like Frobisher
really
and Sixsmith.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a really
Yeah.
fucking intense relationship, and it's like that's good.
Yeah, Izzy, any favorite movie romances?
I mean, I'm just thinking about my favorite movies, which are Looper, Fight Club, Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think Perks of Being a Wallflower. I mean, this is still based on a book in general, but like Charlie and Sam is still like kind of innocent, like still a little bit like compelling, and like that, Like I have my three favorite movies like that stands out to me. Yeah.
Dave, and I mean, you've written a lot of stuff. Like, how do you feel about writing romance and stuff? Like, if you have ever.
Well, it just seems like the good romance was like it's like an insight into like some sort of character trauma, which I think we need more of in Marvel. But but no. So my favorites would be like Revolutionary Road. Was like the one Kate Winslet, Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. But that's also like that's sad as fuck. The inside, so that might just say more about me than actually.
Michael Shannon yells a lot in that movie, which is a favorite thing that we share.
I heavily Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio are in another movie together.
Yep.
Yeah. Kate got nominated. No, she won for The Reader that year. That was a good year. She had a good year. She popped off. This is not going to help, but like, because this is probably against everything I just said. But like, I heavily fucked with The Shape of Water.
I love that movie.
Even though like that's like the most like uncomplicated, like they can't even talk.
There's a great video. There's a great video about monsters in movies by Lindsay Ellis. She goes a lot into why we look to monsters and why we look at monster relationships in movies and stuff. So like Beauty and the Beast, Shape of Water, Hunchback of Notre Dame, that type of stuff, and it's like really interesting, and it touches upon that stuff. So highly recommend checking that out.
We got to wrap up because we got to let Izzy go.
Yes.
So I guess we'll conclude by saying that it's hard to do romance in movies where it's not a romantic movie. And we seem to like the TV show romances better.
There's more flesh, there's more time.
Yeah, plus, like, I don't know, being sex positive in what are essentially Disney movies is tough to do, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that hard. I think
I
you just gotta do it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. Like Izzy said, like Captain Marvel might try something different, or it might not do something different. Maybe Feige just doesn't care. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dave, thanks for being on here. Where can people find you on the social media and anything you want to plug?
You can find me on social medias at Stay Dancing Dave. It's spelled exactly as you would think. Find my poetry. You can search my poetry on YouTube and on the internet. That's all for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have a book coming out in the spring. Buy my book. Okay. You'll see it out.
Yeah.
You'll see it.
You have a book? Holy
I do. I got a book deal, yo.
There you go.
Yeah.
April 2019, book of poetry called Patricide.
There you go.
Ooh, yes. Ooh, I like the title. title. Yeah,
Anthony, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me at the Pizza Taco. I'm loud. I'm obnoxious. I retweet a lot of things. You know how I do.
Yep. Izzy, where can they find you?
You can find me at Delirlin. I'm not going to spell it. And I'll try to post more often because Twitter is new and exciting for me still, even though this is the 16th episode we're recording, I think. Maybe.
And you can find me at Compenderizer. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This episode is very interesting. Not only did we get into some technical things in the middle of recording, which I hope will not be reflected in the final product, but we talked about a lot of stuff. So
we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about that vibranium, dude.
All right, and with that, I think it's time to wrap this up. Goodbye, everyone.
No, come on. You gotta do this. You gotta do the little sketch. That